So, hi everyone. Before starting this session, let's start thinking what about when we talk about building any application, building any services, what actually it means. It means that we have to build an architecture through which our service will run, will provide the data, that services, and apart from the development, you need to look into some other factors as well. That means when you are building a service, that means you need to look into the complexity, into the cost, how much it would take, the scalability, and all factors. It means you have a number of factors when it comes to developing a small service or any of the thing which when it comes to the programming language. So in this session, we will be learning, we will be going through an technology where I will introduce all those things into a simple small package. So hi everyone, welcome to this knowledge session, a basic introduction to Kalix. I am Kuldeepa Gupta, software consultant in Noldes. So before starting the session, there are some knowledge etiquettes which we need to follow about. First one is the punctuality. Punctuality means please join the session 5 minutes prior to the session so that we can start and conclude the session on time. Keep your phones and all the devices on silent mode so that it can't disturb or disturb the session. Avoid disturbance until unless you have question. And the time you have question, feel free to ask me. I will try to answer you in a best position, best way. And at last, your constructive feedback is very, very, very necessary for us in order to enhance our skills, the presentations as well. So please provide the feedback as well at the end of the session. So let's discuss the agenda first. Our agenda will be first before going to the Kalix, let what is the evolution and the executive summary. Means before the Kalix, what we have, what we need, and how we are going to achieving all those things. We will be learning all those things into means in the first thing, which is the evolution and executive summary. Then I will let you know a crisp introduction, a basic introduction on what the Kalix, a special keyword which is KLIX is, and what it means and what actually it gives to you. That's why we are learning this tech stack in an era where we have a number of technologies with us, we have a number of languages with us, we have a number of frameworks and support communities as well. So a crisp introduction to Kalix, then the key feature means what the key feature of Kalix is, why we are gonna choosing the Kalix over other frameworks, over the system models as well. Then if we have Kalix and apart from this we have a number of languages, frameworks and models as well, then what is the thing, what is the special thing, what is the enhancement in the Kalix that helps the developers and the business as well in order to grow more and more exponentially. And at last the conclusion where I will be letting you know what is the justification to the Kalix. So let's start with the execution and evolution summary. So we have a number of things. Means let before driving or creating any of the applications, we have two things to worry about. First one is the application which you are about to build. Second one is the infrastructure on which you are about to deploy. Means you have to maintain, you have to remind two things in your mind while creating or developing or even deploying any application. First one is the application where there are five factors which you need to worry about. First one is the business logic, means for what purpose you are creating, you are developing any application, means what is the logic behind this and how it will work. Second one is framework, means what type of framework you're gonna using to deploy to in order to create your application, your systems. Third one is the database, since we have three types of data. So you might be wondering what which type of database you may need to fulfill your requirements. It may be SQL, NoSQL, or semi-SQL. Means you have three type of data: structured, semi-structured, and no structured data. So you need to think again and again which type of database you might to need, means you might need for your applications, for your development strategy. Because let's say if I'm using SQL for now, but in the coming future, in the coming time, in the future, I may need a database which supports NoSQL as well. So this is the problem with all. In that case you need to think again, and you need to think very wisely by choosing any of the database for your application. Fourth one is transport, where you need to think about the transport protocols, TCP, IP as well. Fifth one is the security. Security means the abstraction layer you are providing in order to make secure your application, how secure your application is, so that no one can easily uh, play with your code. Means it might possible if your program is not enough secure, that one might play with your code as well in order to get all this stuff very easily, and that might put you in trouble from the database aspect, from the financial aspect as well. So you need to think about the security of your application as well. Then there are four factors for the infrastructure. First one is the Kubernetes. I think everyone is very aware of the Kubernetes, what it is and how gonna using, because it provides you a number of features with it, because it's a container overall. Second one is the operating system of which you are going to using, how to upgrade the versions which you may need, the security patches, virtualization, a layer of virtualization which you may need to deploy your applications. And the last one is definitely your servers, your storage and networking. So these are nine factors which you need to mind, which you need to worry about while creating and deploying your application, your systems, your services. So when it comes to the on-premises service, where you need to worry about all the factors at a time, means these all the factors you need to it should be managed by yourself. So the problem is, first you need to write an application, you need people so that they can work on it, you need some expertise, and apart from this you need to worry about all those factors when it comes to the on premises. But the evaluation grows up, eventually we have a number of good tech stacks. Then we, in that case, in such cases we have the cloud as well, where these four factors which are of infrastructure is being handled by the provider or your cloud. So you don't need to worry about the factors, but still you have five things to worry about, which is your application factors. But what I say, don't need to worry about anything, just focus on your business logic. You don't need to worry about the framework, database, transport, security, Kubernetes, operating system, virtualization, server, storage, networking. What you just need is, you just need to focus on your business logic, forget about anything else. I'm going to handling all those things at a time. There comes a special word which is a Kalix. Means there is an exponential growth in technology at a time, meeting all your requirements at a time. Just need to worry about your business logic on which you need to focus, which is Kalix. And here comes the Kalix. So let's bind up all those execution summary, evolution summary with executive one. Means you need something where you have high performance with low latency. You have high scalability. High scalability means you can go anytime up to infinity and come down at any of the time. You need the you need that your program should be highly data centric, capable of handling a large number of volumes. Since the data is growing exponentially, it has been growing from a number of things. It may be IoT, medical devices, it may be CRM portals, anything else. So your data is being
Yeah.
grown exponentially, and you need something that is capable of handling all those large volumes of data at a
Yeah.
time without being lose any of a bit of it. Also,
Absolutely.
you need something that should be data centric. When it comes to a programming model, we a number of times we prefer microservices and rather than the monolith code, because microservices are where you divide all the responsibilities into some smaller parts, so that if, let's say, if I have a portal which is running and I have to maintain a number of things, it may be from account section, reward section, or any of the thing. So what I will do, I will divide my entire code into small blocks. Those should be microservice. Let's say one microservice will be handling all the accounts part. Second one will be handling all the rewards part. Third one is any of the thing which is a part of your portal and or your services. So you may need all those microservices performing very well. So microservice performance is very necessary. Fifth one is your complexity. Complexity means when you're developing, or it may be operational, or it may be from deployment complexity. So when you talk about a number of tech stack, yes, they provide a number of things to you. I accept the fact, but everything has advantages and disadvantages as well. If you are using, even if you are using cloud or any of the tech stack related to it, you need to learn that everything comes with a high complexity. So you need to deal with them as well. So complexity is another factor on which you need to worry about. So developing an operational complexity is the thing on which your focus should be high while developing any of the application. So this is about the executive summary. So let's talk about the Kalix. So what it is and how we are gonna handling all the scenarios at a time with the help of Kalix. So Kalix is first and only, I'm repeating my words, it's first and only developer platform which enables a developer. So if I'm talking about the developer, so the developer might be backend or full stack developer. So developer to easily build a highly scalable and performance microservices and APIs with no operations required. It means we have something very unique where you don't need to worry about the operations or the scalability. You just need to focus on your logics. So it allows the developer to build a very highly scalable and performance microservices and APIs. It combines the API first, database-less programming model with a serverless runtime. So what does it means when, but if I'm saying first API first, database less? API first means you just need to worry about the logic. You don't need to worry about the database. If I'm talking about the database, you don't need to worry about the setup database or tuning it, something like this. And the last thing, you can deploy, or when you're completed with the development part, it would be run within a minutes. So you have a serverless runtime, which is a very important and a crucial part, because time is very crucial in this era where we have a number of things to work on. Overall, Kalix is a single blaster package where the developer don't need to worry about setuping and tuning databases. You don't need to worry about the server or cluster, since it is a distributed model. So I will let you know how it is distributed and how you're gonna dealing with it. Also, apart from this, it supports you with advanced data access patterns. Data access pattern means you might have ES, CQRS, and CRDS. CES means your event sourcing, where you need to persist the data so that you cannot, means you can predict the the state of your application. CQRS means you know, when it comes to database, you need to a model which can segregate the responsibilities between the read and the write model. So you have CQRS, and similar we have CRDS for the complex conflicts as well. So Kalix supports you with all those advanced data patterns at a time. So if I talk more about it, it provides an abstraction layer for the enterprise architecture and developers. An abstraction layer consists of every damn thing which you may need to worry about. So abstraction gives you helps you in building your applications very easily. It helps in removing the architectural complexity challenges. I will let you know how it removes the architectural complexity challenges. It allows, it creates, it helps you with hyper scalar infrastructure under the hood. It means you don't need to worry about how the things are working under the hood. What are the implementation of those things? Means if I'm talking about database less thing, if I'm talking about the complexity, means the complexity is very low. Scalability means you don't need to worry about. Anytime you can scale your applications up to the infinity, and you can bring down at any time to zero. So you don't need to worry about how the infrastructure is working. You don't need to worry about the underroad things. It is highly optimized cloud architecture offered as a fully managed service in all aspects at low cost. Because if so, what happens is when we talk about the IT services, there are several pillars, there are several factors on which you need to worry about. First one is how your system is working. Second, how you are managing the financial thing, means your account section where you need to spend a huge money over those all those things. Third one is the security and safety. So second pillar is very crucial, because you cannot compromise with the financial things at a time. So you need to think about the your budget, your amount as well. So it is very optimized and helps you and optimizing the cost as well. Overall, the developer only need to think about is they need to only focus on the business logic. So this is a introduction to Kalix. Now if I make a small and crisp introduction to Kalix, it is database less. You don't need to worry about the databases under the hood, how they are working, how to manage them, how to scale up down, what should be the type. You don't need to worry about the schemas, the types, the versions, or even where it has been located. You don't need to worry about the broker, since it is brokerless. You don't need to worry about the Kubernetes, as everything is already implemented in it. So you don't need to worry about the Kubernetes, means how you are gonna working with the Kubernetes part, how it might possible you may need a person or at least a group of person who will be helping you in deploying your applications on Kubernetes. You don't need to worry about it. It is Kubernetes less. It's Ops less means operational less. There is no such operations needed in Kalix. It is serviceless. It is serverless. So demand on technology helps the enterprises to move on with the new features, upcoming features, where they need an application which is a very new in greenfield, or it is highly capable of handling a number of things at a time. So at that place, the very easy solution should be Kalix. So if I talk about the encapsulated complexity under the Kalix, it is again your database, your broker, your Kubernetes, your ops, your services, your serverless. The one more something which makes to learn about the Kalix is there is an aggressive reduction in complexity. So if I talk about the aggressive reduction in complexity, it means you need your focus time, your effort, your intellectual capacity on business innovations. Second one is it's a simplicity, means your development part should be more and your operational part should be less. Means more dev, less ops, means spend less time on technical complexity but more time on your features, means only worry about your underlying features, your business logic. So let's talk about the key features of Kalix. So first one is the high performance with very low latency. As I talk about, when it comes to developing any of the application, there are something which you need to worry about is your performance, especially your microservices, where you have a number of services to work on to handle them at a time, because ultimately you have to manage the database and other things as well with the performance. So your program should be highly, means your program should have high capacity, so that there is no worry about the performance, and it has to be very low latency, means built. So how Kalix work on this? Kalix is built on a distributed computing platform. As I told you that you don't need to worry about the cluster, you don't need to worry about the server, even though it has been built on the distributed computing platform. That means you are just you are free to work on worrying, don't worrying about the high performance and low latency. So Calix is built on distributed computing platform that has been proven to support a massively scalable high performance system for many of the world's leading brands. Even the architecture optimizes the available resources which are being provided by the cloud to make the data available for processing in memory. So how things are working under the hood is, if let's say if you need to read some data from the database, so the first way is definitely read that data from again and again from the database and give a number of hit, uh, make increase the response time. But rather than, what if I say I have that cache memory with me, in memory with I have in memory, so that I don't need to read the data again and again from the database. I will be just reading the data from that in memory and give the data to the users. So that architecture with the that Calix providers is highly optimized and makes a better use of cloud resources at right place and the right time. What actually it helps you? It helps you eliminating the reads from the database, which actually later on helps you in reducing the database cost, because the highly use of the database you will be having, the highly cost you should have to pay ultimately. So if I'm saying I'm not using the database at that pace, so that means I have I have high performance, very low latency, and I don't need to worry about the cost since I have in memory as well. Second feature which the Calix provide is definitely your languages of choice. Developers use the programming language that they are most comfortable with. So when it comes to the language, you have two things. First one is the language and the frameworks which are fully supported. Second thing, the languages and the frameworks which are supported in time but with the community support. Calix is very rich in all those two factors. Languages and frameworks which are supported in Calix are like, TypeScript, Java Spring, or Scala, which are, one of the most popular languages nowadays. And when it comes to the community support languages and frameworks, you can use Python, Go, Rust, Kotlin, and C Sharp as well. So Calix support a high rich, means Calix is a high and a rich support for the language. So you don't need to worry about any, you don't need any specialist, or you don't need any expert who is expert in Calix and working with Calix. You just need a developer who can write code in their own languages. It might be Scala, it might be Java, it might be Python, C Sharp, or Ruby as well. Third thing, third factor, which is one of the most amazing factor which I can learn, is declarative programming language. Calix supports the traditional key value model. Now, what it means? That means it supports the traditional key value state model, but it makes extremely use for developers to employ more sophisticated state models, which are vital to large scale, high performance application development. Now, what actually it means? When you need to worry about the advanced data sourcing, it may be your ES, your event sourcing, CQRS, CRDX, CRDT, Kalix help you to work with them. Even if you don't know how the ES, CRDT, and CQRS works, you don't need to learn, you don't need to worry about it. Since Kalix provide a rich support for this, you just need to implement your business logic. Again, I'm repeating my words, the business logic, because the only thing the developer should worry about, the organization should worry about the business logic, and everything, every damn thing, it may be your cost, it may be your performance, scalability, database, will be managed by Calix. Fourth one is definitely your state management. So Calix, it enables the general purpose high performance stateful applications, means it manages distributed state at scale and delivers the state in memory. As I told you, for the high performance, it has in memory, so it delivers the state in memory to the function automatically at a runtime. How it helps you? It helps you in decreasing the runtime. Also, don't need to worry about the regular hits at database for the reading purpose. This removes the management of data from being a developer concern, because when you're a developer, you need to worry about the management of the data on which you are working on. So it removes the management of the data and enables a general purpose high performance stateful application to be built using a serverless parallelism. So these are the four, and let's discuss the another four as well. Fifth one is no database required, manages the data stored in its distributed database automatically. As I told you, Calix is databaseless, where you don't need to worry about what type of data you have, what type of schema you have. Even you don't need to learn all those things at a time. So it helps you to build exponentially. If you don't know what is a schema, what is database, and how to work with them, how to deal with them, don't need to learn, you don't need to worry about it. It is no database required stage, it is no database required model, where it will automatic sorry it will automatically manage the data stored in its distributed database. Sixth one, which is an amazing part, is no DevOps required, since the application runs on full cloud native Kubernetes based infrastructure. That means if your organization have some DevOps person, you don't need them. You don't need them when it comes to the Calix. It has Kubernetes, it has serverless, as I told you, clusterless feature. So you don't need that person who is working on the DevOps part even. It has, all the integration foundations elements which are being required for your application to be deployed on, on any of the clouds. So Calix has everything in it. Even you don't need even you don't need the DevOps person with you. Seventh one, which is most critical thing you need to worry about, is the cost efficient. It has two models in it. First one is pay as you go, second one is committed infrastructure model. So, if you are working in any organization, you might be told that whatever you are doing, it's okay, but focus on the cost efficiency part as well. Your program, your application should be highly efficient, that it cannot harm the cost as well at the same time. Calix helps you. As I told you, for the database, it has in memory support. It gives you two types of model for the payment. First one is pay as you go, second one is committed infrastructure. So Calix helps in reducing the cost at a good stage as well. And last one, in the eighth one, is flexible deployment options, means you can start quickly working on it easily with free trial as well. So developers can get started quickly and very easily with a free trial of Calix, and they start building their services in the very low cost. So Calix is also available with deployment options for two things. First one is enterprise, second one is dedicated. Enterprise means predictable cost and multi-cloud options. Second one is dedicated, means predictable cost, multi-cloud options, POP choice, isolated and single tenant environment. So this is how the flexible deployment options helps you, means in adopting the Kalix at a very priority. So these are the 8 features. Let me revise them again. First one is high performance with low latency. Second one is languages of choice. Third one is declarative programming models, where you need to where you talk about ES, CQRS, CRD, CRDTs. Fourth one is state management. Fifth one is no database required. Sixth one is no DevOps required. Seventh one is cost efficient, and eighth one is flexible deployment option. So how, now let's talk about how it enhances the developers, and at the same time we will learn how it enhances the businesses as well. So because developers are not only the part of the business, ultimately you have to think about the business, how the organization can adopt Calix at very priority, how it is affecting the developers and business at the same time. So first, from the developers eye, this the diagram you can see is of the Kubernetes. Since I believe the one who is not from DevOps might be aware of how the difficult the DevOps is, although it provides a number of things, but it is pretty hard, pretty tough to implement to implement the Kubernetes, the Kubernetes into your program. So Calix provide support for it. You don't need to worry about it. Where a number of things you need to worry about is the balancing your ingress router, the cache, your application, your container, your event broker, your databases. You're out of that. You're out of that things now. What you know, what the developer can feel is now with the Calix is you have high performance for even microservices and building up the APIs. Second one is low latency microservice based system, means your microservice based system will be having a very low latency when it comes to the failure and exceptional handling. Auto scaling, best part of the Calix, means you can go anytime up to the infinity and can bring down your services to zero at a time. So how it helps you, it helps you to deal with the cost as well. Fourth one is encapsulated complexity. As I told you earlier, that it has encapsulated complexity with it, and those 6 complexities which has been encapsulated in the Calix is again database, your broker, your Kubernetes, your operations, which is ops, services, and servers. So it has encapsulated complexities with it, which is the toughest part when it comes to the deployment and development of any of the application you are working on. Fifth one, the aggressive reduction in complexity. I believe I have already told you that it reduces the complexity with a very exponentially. So when you does code, you have been asked, you might have been asked that the program should be highly efficient. Your program should be highly efficient. It should have low complexity. Even we have some plugins for the same that to reduce the plug complexity. So Calix provides you and platform you a model that aggressively reduces the complexity. Developer can use any language, any framework they are familiar with. So if you know Java, if you know Scala, you can start working with. You can, if you know the Python, if you know the Ruby, the C Sharp, you can easily start working with the Calix, since it supports you. And if you're familiar with any of the language, you can just start working with it. It provides support for rich programming model, that is CES, CQRS, and CRDH. So let's clear it what actually these 3 keywords means here, since I'm repeating the words again and again. First one is the ES, which is event sourcing. Second one is CQRS, command and query responsibility segregation, and third one is the CRDTs, which is again conflict-free replicated data type. So these are some rich programming models which you may need to persist the state of your application. If you are worrying about the continuous database, if you want to segregate the responsibilities between the read and write model, which is again CQRS, and CRDTs, which provide a way for you to merge the concurrent modification always in any of the orders. So this is CRDT, and Calix provide a rich support for the same. Now, what only the developer needs to do is only they need to worry about, they need to focus on, they need to shift their mindset is the business logic, means what actually is your requirement. Say for example, if I'm developing a portal, if I'm developing a microsite, my focus should be on what is the requirement. That means all the APIs which I need to work on according to the requirement. The developers only need to worry about those logics. Except then we don't need to worry about any other things, including the deployment part as well. So this is a small structure of the Kalix, where this is your application and every rest thing is being handled by the Kalix. You can see that Kalix has its own load balancing, own event broker, own state store. Kalix has its own distributed state management. So, uh, so Kalix has zero operational complexity since only you are working on the business logic part. You don't need to worry about any of the things. So it has zero operational complexity. So this is how you are thinking from only the developer side, but ultimately you are working work for an organization. It's ultimately in business. So you need to have a particular business strategy for which reason you are using the Kalix. Ultimately you have a number of things, but if you are choosing Kalix even over the cloud, means you have cloud with you where Azure, AWS, and GCP is offering you a number of things at a time, but still you are going to something which is a very new in market, and you are going to adopting that thing, means the Calix. So there might be some reasons, there might be some strategies. So let's discuss. First thing, for any of the organization, the first thing which comes is your time. Means your time is very precious. You need something that is very quick and easy for deployment of your services. So from the business strategy part, yes, quick and easy for deployment and development as well, since here ultimately development is the first thing which you are doing in your organization. So very quick and easy development and deployment to build their services. Take care of every other things. It might be your databases, it might be your messaging, data caching, and all DevOps part. So it reduces your time which is being consumed at a very large scale. Ultimately what happens is, if you're developing a thing, you're developing an application in a very short time, then the expected one, it may cost you, means it will help in reducing the cost as well, which is the second thing which we are learning, which we are thinking of, which is the cost optimizes. Apart from the development part, it optimizes the use of CPU RAM automatically. You don't need to worry about, means how the CPU and your RAM are working. If let's say, if you need a if you need to increase the RAM, if you need to increase the cores in the CPU, don't need to worry about it. It will automatically increase and decrease as well for you, resulting in optimization at a very high scale, lowering the possible infra footprint. Second, eliminates the cost of employing hard to find distributed computing framework. Since, as I told you, that Kalix is a distributed computing framework, so it means you need a team which can handle the distributed computing framework, definitely. But what if I say I'm gonna eliminating the cost, means I don't need those people who work for distributing computing frameworks. I'm just eliminating that cost. That will help the organization in building as well. Third one is solves skills availability. Let's say I have a tech stack, it might be any of the cloud. But what happens then, I need the person, the expert for the same, means I need some persons who have expertise in working with cloud or any other tech stack. That will, so for that purpose, I have to look into the market at which person working on which tech stack, or we have to train them, we have to let them what it is. So in the case of Calix, you don't need any specialized engineers. It does all the heavy lifting, so that the developers no need to worry about the underlying or under the hood implementation. So this is the business strategy. The business from this is from the business standpoint when it comes to the Calix. Now let's make a conclusion, which is a justification for which we need to use Calix. So we have four factors to talk about. First one is the software spend. Second one is the engineering consulting spend. Third one is on operations spend, and fourth one is the cloud spend. So when I will let you know about the four things, the first phrase you will be mind of is the Calix uh, is a new footprint in the technology era. So let's discuss all those four parts in a very short. So what happens is, when the economics of decreasing time to market for digital transformation in application, you need to worry about something, means how much you are spending on your software, the person, the engineers you need to consult and work on it, the operations which you might need to perform any of the activity. It might be from creating an architecture to deploy development to deployment, and then at last you need to monitor and uh, provide new features as well. Also, the main thing when it comes to the data and the data modernization is the cloud spend, since you need to spend a huge amount on the cloud spend. So when it comes to software speed, you means to reallocate funding for databases. You are talking about the data caches, the middleware PaaS, means ultimately it's an PaaS, which is a platform as a service, which is such as a cloud foundry and Kubernetes service meshes, etc. So these are the factors which lets you to worry about the software spend of any of the thing. Second one is the engineering and consulting speed, means your existing team sorry, can deliver with sorry, can deliver either without the requirement to hire contract for the additional things. Means let's say I'm working on the cloud, so or any of the tech stack which has a good features, have a rich support as well. In that case, you might need a new team, you need to hire, you need to look into the consulting team, that what type of engineers we need, do we need to train them, do we need to hire them directly, and definitely it everything costs you. Third one is the operation spend, means reallocation funding for DevOps, SRE, database administrators as well. Because if you are, even if you have data, you if you don't, if you have database with you, and apart from the database fees, you need a person who can administrate the database at the same time. So you need database administrator. Ultimately, you need a DevOps person who can work on the DevOps part as well, means the deployment part as well. If I say I don't need those things at a time, means I don't need the database administrator, I don't need that DevOps guy. So that is something very special in Kalix. Last one is the cloud spend, means Kalix based service have smaller infrastructure footprints than the services and the API. If I'm comparing it to the traditional middleware such as Quarkus or Spring, leading to the lower cloud cost. Ultimately, if you are paying for something, you trying to make it lower and lower and lower so that it cannot harm your entire functionality. Say, for example, if I'm building an application, if I've already spent a huge amount on the resources as well, and the end of the day, I need to worry about it. I still need money, I still need fund to deploy my application. So in that case, you need to think about your financial factor as well. This is why we need Kalix. Means Kalix deliver a new, the high performance microservices APIs your business needs, and at a lower cost than any of the other approach. This is why I said at the end of the session, you will be saying that yes, Kalix is a new footprint in the technology. So that's all for this session. And if you do have any question, I'm very open for it. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
Kuldeep,
Kuldeep.
you are.
Yes.
Okay. If you do have any question, I'm very open to answer you. Okay. So if no question, let I consider it as okay. And I would request you to give your constructive feedback, as it is very important for us. And if you do have any question, you can reach out to me at any time. I'm very open to answer you. Okay. So let's